with me Federico, also an employee of Endava, but a full-fledged member of IIBA Colombia. So we're here to talk a bit about business analysis, a bit about product. And first, you can introduce yourself and tell us what it is you do at Endava.
I've been in the technology industry for 24 years. I've had roles I started as a product lead for the pharmaceutical company. From there, I went to being a project manager and a portfolio manager in a web venture startup at that time. It's a consolidated Colombian company that works for companies in the US. But I've also been a product manager, also for startups and also in large companies here in Colombia. During that time, I've had the chance to guide projects from ideation to delivery. And I've also had the chance to guide portfolios from KPIs to completion and to delivery to end clients. In Endava, I started as a head of project delivery management 6 years ago. From there, I managed to get a successor for the project delivery management bit. And right now I am head of analysis, and I'm also regional coordinator for heads of project delivery management in the Americas.
Wow.
Yeah, it's quite a mouthful.
Yeah. But the thing that interests me the most about you is the product side. And I'll tell you why. Because I know that IIBA, the way it is now, currently, at least in Canada, is that the focus is on B2B, business to business, and it really is more project side. And I know they've swung a bit to the product side by introducing the product certificate, the new product certificate. But really, their main focus is IT and in B2B. So product is something new for us at IIBA, and hence I want to hear about someone who's had experience in the product side.
Great.
I guess I can start by asking, can a business analyst transition to the product side easily?
He needs to get a perspective on what B2C means, and also get a perspective on what user journey is. Because unless he's able to understand how an organization gets profit from an implementation inside a market, or how a user consumes a product, then it's going to be very difficult for him to generate requirements that are both relevant to the business and that match the market that you're going to do the rollouts in. One thing that really helped me is the lean view on taking products to market. I guess the industries have changed. Maybe 20 years ago, you could take your time to design a product, then do a bunch of testing and then deploy it. But right now, if you go light on that design, you do very quick user tests and you start evolving that product in iterations, then you're going to make sure that you understand the full usage of the product. And that'll give you enough input to contact either the design teams or the budget owners behind your effort, to be able to make sure that the initiatives have a way forward. Okay. That happens if you are an employee for a company that is working on a product that is being put on the market. Okay. Then you have the entrepreneurial standpoint of that same approach. In that case, you need to be aware that it's not about how the idea is going to work, it's how the idea is going to evolve through several iterations. And I think that's where, if you rely on tools and approach that lets you gain perspective on the different angles you're taking on the product, then that's going to make your iterations much richer, much more effective.
Okay, nice. And what would you say, working on the product side, what would be the day in the life of a product manager, for example?
I believe that the product manager has maybe 3 different big approaches to his day. On one end, you need to be on top of the customer's feedback or the customer's use of the product, be it in metrics or be it in customer support forums, is understanding how the market is feeling towards the product that you have being sold or being distributed. Then you need to be on top of what your team feels that their contribution is doing on the product itself, because team mood affects all rollouts, and the speed and the lightness of your rollout and the strength of the contribution of your team members on that product is what makes what gives life to the whole cycle. If your team needs mandate to act, or if your team is not connected to the product experience, it's not the same thing. It's going to be very draining for you as a product lead.
Yes.
And then you need to put the rest of your day in making sure that your stakeholders, the individuals who own the budget that you're managing for your product, or those individuals that may be opinion leaders that are giving feedback on how your product is being used, consumed, or how the market is appreciating it. Right now we have influencers is one of those examples. They can either make or break your product, as well as a sponsor internally in your company. If you don't understand how his needs are being met by your work and by the work that your team is doing, then you're not going to be able to continue that effort over time.
We tend to think of someone working as a product manager more in a leadership role than someone who's a general's BA, right? And you've been a business analyst before. Do you think there's a stronger leadership component in being a product analyst or a product leader than there is being a business analyst?
I believe that both roles need leadership. Story writing is something that will provide less value as large language models take over. And it's on the criteria that you have towards the work that you're doing, and how your understanding of the initiatives are either viable or not, or they can have an impact on the market or not. But then if you're not able to influence other individuals, you're not going to be able to do that job. And influence needs to work on the chemistry that you have with the team, but also the empowerment that you're committing towards that team. So as a business analyst, you're going to have to be leading stakeholders towards change. As a product owner or as a product manager, you're going to have to be leading either budgets or initiatives towards a specific objective. Therefore, leadership is key in both roles.
In both aspects. Okay, that's good to know. Anything you want to add? You could even add it in Spanish to the audience.
Hoy en día, nadie tiene la razón frente a el futuro de las iniciativas. Creo que lo estamos viendo en los gobiernos, creo que lo estamos viendo en los trabajos. Si nosotros no estamos atentos a cómo contribuir a lo que nuestros líderes están escuchando o hacia las iniciativas que quieren, sencillamente no vamos a estar viviendo la vida que queremos vivir. In that sense, it's in our contribution and how we put that contribution forward that we're able to live the life we want. Just making sure that we're trained enough to understand how that contribution may be understood by others. It's critical. It has a lot of skill inside of it, but it's also being very open to how the market changes and will continue to change.
Thank you very much. It's been absolutely a pleasure talking to you, Federico.
It's my pleasure, Marcus. Thank you so much. Fantastic.
Fantastic. I want to welcome you to my interview with IIBA Colombia, but also at Endava, which is a company here in Colombia. They have a lot of business analysts, and I'm here with one particular business analyst. We're going to talk about how she got into the BA world here in Colombia. So first, I'll have her introduce her to the audience.
So hi, my name is Andrea Betancourt. I've been in the business analysis for almost 10 years now.
Wow.
So it's a lot, but first I was a systems engineer, so I was a developer actually.
You did all the coding.
Yeah. I was a back-end engineer, focusing mainly on APIs and database configurations and store procedures, everything like that. But after I think about 7 or 8 years, I needed a change, and that change took me to business analysis.
Okay. Now, before you go any further, I'll say that there's a lot of business analysts who do a lot of back-end stuff, like the database, like SQL queries and stuff. I started as a business systems analyst, and I did a lot of that stuff too. So what do you do here at Endava as a business analyst?
Okay, I work with a client that is in the retail business right now. Basically, what I do with them is starting the discovery from a new process or a new product that they want to launch. Mainly, it is for the e-commerce because we work on the on the adventures platforms. So it's mainly e-commerce. Every time that they want to launch a new product or a new feature for the things they already have, I start since the discovery until the delivery of that particular.
Now, are you in charge of? Well, actually, you can take me through your day. So, what would a typical day, a business analyst day, be for you at Endava?
Okay. My client is 3 hours away, so we have like 3 hours when I can focus on the things that I have to do before every meetings that come along.
Right.
So my work days start with an internal daily, mainly for Endava folks. So we know basically what we are working on. After that, I start doing like the reviews of the requirements that I receive. We have like an intake form. I receive the requirements and start doing some research based on the knowledge that I have from the business. Those research take me to like a lot of questions, basically because that's my job, ask questions. After I do like all the analysis that I need to do to actually go into with the client and receive those questions and ask those questions and receive the answers, I go with the client, with the daily with the client, and after that it starts like schedule the meetings that I need to do with the stakeholders so I can actually get my answers that are needed for that. After that, I meet with the UX UI folks that help me to take that those requirements into something more functional. If we need to have like something, because I know because of my background of back end, if we need to have something from the back end, I always met with the technical lead so I can know exactly what needs to be changed on that. And start writing my user stories, my epics, and everything like that.
Cool. And I just want to say, yes, I know this interview is in English. Not just our guest here that speaks English, but a lot of people, in fact, everyone here at Endava speaks English because they serve a lot of international clients and also a lot of clients in America. So hence that's why. And I'm curious, actually, as a developer, when you were doing a lot of that database management stuff, how long did you do that for? Like how many years before you changed to a BA?
Around 7-8 years.
7 or 8 years. So was your education in computer science or
yes,
database stuff?
I am a computer systems engineer.
Okay, so that makes it an easier transition into the database world.
Yeah.
So when you see things as a business analyst now, if you're talking to developers, you have a much deeper understanding of what it is they do.
Yes. Even though that technology now is different from what I used to do, the logic is the same, right?
True. Yeah.
Yeah.
True,
So if they go through like a piece of code or something like that, I can actually understand what they are telling me and what they are doing.
Yeah.
So that helps me a lot when I need to write specifications, mainly technical specifications, because those also like need to be documented and everything like that.
Okay. So is there any time, and there's always been this debate that communication with developers can be difficult.
Yeah.
Do you still find that as a business analyst it's the same, or now that it's different than you see from a different perspective as a BA?
It depends on also on the people that are around you, or the people that are like in the group or in the team that you are working on. I think for my background it's a little bit easier,
Yeah.
but I still encounter people that are not easy enough to actually get me through the things that I need to get.
So if you're writing a user story or a use case, some developers might say, I don't understand that use case or user story, but now that you as a BA who used to be a former developer, when you write them, is it a way that the developers understand, or is there still a lot of back and forth trying to modify that use case?
We use the refinements for that. Basically, I try to explain in the simplest way, the way that I think it is better for them to understand it, not putting any technical like language and anything like that.
Yes.
More, if I do things more easy for them, I find it better.
Makes sense.
Because they understand like in a language that all people can understand. And after that, if they need to put something like, okay, but we need to change this piece of code because of this, so I complement the user story. But mainly, since I put things that all people can understand, they can understand it.
Okay, that makes sense. And is there any challenges that you have as a business analyst that you've been able to overcome by like so for example, when you were a developer, did you think, I'm a business analyst, if they'd only do it this way, if I only do it this way. Now you're a business analyst and you're thinking, now I understand the problems the developers went through. Is there anything that you feel as a business analyst now that more clarity that you didn't see as a developer?
Yes.
Okay.
Usually when you are a developer, you put the things that the requirement is not clear enough for me to actually start development. But I've been finding that it is sometimes difficult to get the answer from the stakeholders or the PO or the product manager in this case.
Right.
So that's why maybe sometimes the user stories are not good enough for them to understand them.
So it's better to have a conversation.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I know they say sometimes a user story is just that. It's just to start a conversation, right?
Yes.
Okay. Right.
And sometimes they don't have enough time to actually get into a meeting and have everything like we needed to be done. But I found like some ways to actually communicate with them and have those things ready. And for example, if one user story the developer thinks that is not ready yet to get, I will take it back and put it in some other form on some other things that needs to be working.
Now, I'm just curious because we're speaking in English now, but when you talk to the developers, is it in English or Spanish?
I have both ways because I have a team with the client. There are 4 developers, so they are speaking English only.
Oh, okay, good.
So, and with my team in Spanish because we have 4 people also there with Spanish.
That's amazing. How about for up and coming business analysts? For people who want to, like developers who want to become VAs, any advice for them?
For me, actually, doing that transition between developer and analysis was like enlightening because it was not only coding to actually present as something functional to the client or to the user, to the final user, but go through the whole process of creating that, not only the code, but since the beginning of the idea that the client has until the designs that we need to go through, with the discovery sessions that we need to go, with the prototypes that we need to build with the UX designers, and even do some user testing. Those things are super interesting for me because I get the input from a lot of places and not only one source.
So developers only had it from one source. Okay, got it. Yeah. So it's a completely different perspective. You have a bigger picture perspective.
Yes.
Okay, good, great. Well, thank you once again.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Cheers. Okay. Another employee in Endava. So I'll have the employee introduce himself to the audience. Go ahead.
All right, so nice to meet you guys. My name is Andres. I have been working as a developer here in Endava almost for 3 years. Specifically, I am a backend developer, but I have also some good experience with frontend. So I would say in my future, I'm going to be a full stack developer. Yeah.
Good. Now, the developers. Sometimes they deal with BAs and sometimes they don't directly, but they always deal with them indirectly in some way, shape, or form. So first we'll talk a bit about your job as a developer. What do you do here as a developer at Endava?
All right, so what we do is we take the business needs, like someone that's like the ideal scenario, right? Someone go to a developer and tells, hey, this is what I need, this is how I want it, and I use the software to make a solution for the problem that they are presenting me, or for getting a solution for the need that they have. So in theory, that would be it, using software for solving a necessity of a team.
Fantastic. You deal with business analysts, do you deal with them directly, like you actually talk to them, or do you get your requirements indirectly from someone else?
Okay, I have had the opportunity for working in the two ways. I think that the better way is working directly with the BA. It is really useful because when you have direct contact with the BA and he knows what he is doing, like he has really the knowledge of the business, you are going to be able as a developer of going in the right direction and in the real good solution for the problem that the business has. Like, let me explain a little about it. There are a lot of different ways that you can use for solving a problem with software. You know, there are good solutions, normal solutions, and super good and super efficient solutions. And I feel like the difference among these kind of solutions are two things. One, as a developer, you need to have the knowledge and you need to be eager for finding the real good solution, but also you need someone, or you as yourself, you need the knowledge of the business exact need, like the specific stuff, and the real very specific things that are important for the business that you as a developer should ensure that you are going to achieve with your development. So yeah, I think it's really important to work with a BA directly.
Sometimes I hear from BAs that say, oh, I wrote the user story this way, the developer didn't understand it. And then I get BAs who have been developers before, they go, I know how to write the user story just so the developer understands it. So what do you encounter? Do you encounter a problem and you say to the business analyst, what exactly do you mean by this?
Oh.
Or do you go back and say, I know exactly what you mean. We don't have to do any more iterations. That's it.
Normally, even if the VA had some previous experience as developer, you always are going to find that kind of questions like, what could he mean with this, right? So it's always good, like working with people, with VAs that are open to talk after they write the stories, the tickets, because those questionnaires are always going to appear, right? Because even if we both have the experience developing, our minds work in a different way. So yeah, I think it's good after receiving a ticket, have a short meeting, it may be 5 minutes or so, to talk about it. Like, hey, what do you mean with this specific part? Or I understood this, is it right? That kind of stuff, yeah.
So you worked as a developer, you love being a developer. Are you coming anytime soon to the dark side of the business analysis?
Okay, I have had some experiences in the dark side, I would say. Like, and there are some teams where they give you the freedom for working into the tickets. They give you all the context about the business, and you have to write your own stories. That not the best practice, but it's something that usually happens. I think that in the future I would like to go in that direction, maybe, but very in the future. For the moment, I really love developing. I love what I do, but I feel like it would be a normal step, like in some point leaving the development to the new minds, and yeah, with a little more of experience and already having the context on how the software works, I think that I could like do a really good job as a BA. Yeah.
Before you decide to come to the dark side, I want to say you're welcome anytime.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you for the interview. It was fun.
Thank you. That's good.
Welcome back again to the Inquisitive Analyst Show. Here I'm interviewing John. John also works at Endava here in Colombia. And I thought I would ask him a few questions. He's a tester, a quality analyst tester. And we don't hear a lot about them, but they do work. Quality analyst testers do work a lot with business analysts. So we're here to hear his story, of his side of the story at Endava. So welcome, John.
Nice to meet you.
So maybe you can tell us what you do here at Endava in your testing.
Okay, I am QA analyst, but my expertise is performance testing.
Okay.
So I am here in the performance test manager. I work in the projects in order to understand the business needs of our clients and help them to optimize their applications, measure the bottlenecks, the architecture, the infrastructure, in order to optimize the performance of their systems.
Now, the other interesting thing is that John has a YouTube channel, a podcast. And on the podcast, you can tell us what that's all about.
Okay, even I started with my YouTube channel, John Performance IT, where I teach everything about performance testing. And then it's born my podcast, Efecto Performance in Spanish, where I interview CEOs, QA directors, project managers, business analysts, other roles different than testers, in order to understand the importance of performance testing in Latin America.
So do you work directly with any business analysts? You do?
Yeah.
And what type of relationship do you have? Like, is it that they give you information to test, or do you request certain types of information from them? How does it work?
When I start any project, I need to understand the non-functional requirements. Those non-functional requirements are the business needs of the client and how to convert those business needs in my testing objectives. So the process of elicitation of those requirements is part of the process in the beginning of any performance project.
So let's say, just for example, you've got a use case or you've got a user story. Not yourself, it's been developed by the business analyst. Does the business analyst it gives all that to the developer does the building. Do you ask for the user story and the use case, or you don't need that? All you need is that software to test.
I need that information as well in order to understand the functionality, but I ask for the technical expectations.
Okay. Do you go through a number of iterative tests, or do you just do one test? If it passes, it's passed. If it fails, you try it a second time. If it fails, then you give it back to the developers, or does it go back to the business analyst?
There is a process in order to understand everything on that. And after the process of requirements elicitation, I start a planning, I create a strategy, and the implementation could be iterative, but as well.
Okay. Is there anything you would like to say to testers out there, if anybody wants to become a tester? Any encouraging words for them?
Okay, right now we have a gap in our system education because any university teach testing. So, for example, in Endava, we have testing schools or internships in order to introduce the people to this discipline. And the idea is that people start understanding the business needs, knowing the techniques, using the methodologies, and start with that information in order to practice the testing discipline in order to achieve the knowledge, the skills, and everything like that.
And I was going to mention to the audience, a lot of the work that business analysts do fall under different titles, like a quality assurance analyst, or like a product analyst, or like a relationship manager, something like this. but we're still doing business analysis practitioner work. So for any BAs out there who want to become testers, it certainly is an avenue for you to try. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, thanks very much, Mark. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you a lot.
All right. I was going to ask, what's the podcast address that they can?
Okay, see my YouTube channel, John Performance IT.
John Performance IT. Okay, great.
Yeah.
John Performance IT. Check it out.
Okay, bye.
All right. Thanks a lot. Mark Sudekang, the Inquisitive Analyst in Medellin, Colombia.